Oh, all right. That is looking better. And awesome. All right. Managed to find the unmute button. All right. Hello and welcome, folks. Well, here's to another live session. As always, an exciting start. So we got some folks. We got some special guests here today. As you can see, we got Ian, Raul, and Nicholas. We are talking about a very interesting topic. But before I dive in, I just want to check in with YouTube, make sure my audio is finally coming through, and you guys can see us, hear us, and just do a few shout out. Let's see who we have here. We have Benoit from Quebec. David Priot is here. David, good to see you again. From Kentucky, Said is here. Bob is here from Atlanta. Manish says hello. Matthew is here from Canada. Robert, always good to see you, mate. Robert is one of our 100,000 feet members. Those who have been in the loop know exactly what I'm talking about. Emily is here from Atlanta. Cara Bryan says hello from Ohio. Jen Abel is here. Jen, good to see you. Hunter says hello. Yep, some Alejandro says hi from Mexico. Kirk is here from Minnesota. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Great. So, hello and welcome, folks. So, well, what is this about? So, before we dive in, obviously, this has been on our mind. We are launching our what has been our signature program. It's gone through a few different names. Ignore those, but yeah. So it's really a pro level program which focuses on helping people become Power BI consultants and uh, create a side income or a full time income. And the idea is that you do what you love and you get really good at it. We want to make an impact and we want to create a life of freedom, or as I like to call it, life by design. You know how I always talk about dashboard by design and modeling by design, not by accident. It's like, oh yeah, just somehow it happened. I don't know, right? And I know that's the life I was living, and I was like, oh, how did I end up here? Well, yeah, but what if we could create our life by design? That's our goal here. So that is opening January 2021. We're really excited about it, and today we are here to talk about the first step. And I'm not kidding, guys. This is literally the first step. So I'll show you the steps. We already talked about this. So this is the first step in the 5-step process that we go through as part of this program, right? So yeah, it's literally the first step, which is define your focus and niche. We're going to talk all about it today. But just to give you a glimpse, the rest of the steps, the next step is to, once you have your focus and niche defined, you craft a pillar stone story behind that. Then you leverage those, you target a focus and niche using your pillar stone story to get your first paid client. And then then you work on, use the same approach, you get your next paid client. Now, I'm going to pause here because this is a huge milestone. This is a huge milestone, guys, because I've seen the mental shift that happens once people have gone through this stage, right? And say, whoa, Avi, man, I can help people and I can be paid for it. Now, if you think about it, this is actually not an external shift. Well, it is an external shift, but it's an internal shift that's the most important. It's the belief that you get that, oh, I can help others and I can be paid for it. Now, if you ask me, that is most likely true for members even when they start. Right? From day one, I know that's why I let them in the program, right? I mean, I invited them to the program. I knew that they can help people, and of course they can paid for it. If you add value, you are going to get paid, right? So I know that already, but that doesn't matter. That isn't material. What's important is for you to not only know it, like, oh yeah, I know, but really believe it. Oh God, yeah, boy, I can do this, right? So that sort of feeling. So it's an internal shift, and that's what we're looking for, folks. And that's what gives you that success, changes you that trajectory. All right, so I'm getting carried away here. And after that, it's easy. You take everything you've learned and like, cool. Well, now I know I can help people. I can be paid for it. How do I turn this into an engine, into a steady stream of clients? But again, we're not going to go through all these steps. Of course, we've been spending close to a year with the members who are here today on this journey, and it's been super exciting. And let me see. So today we're just going to focus on the very first one, defining your focus and niche. And this is what I had in mind, and it's going to be a pretty open conversation. We'll see how it goes. But I'm thinking kind of why niche down? And ooh, there is definitely a lot of fear. There's a lot of yeah buts, as I like to call it, right? So it's like, yeah, Avi, but, right? So we're going to cover your fears, cover the yeah buts, and how to niche down. And this is really interesting because we're going to do live examples. We have, these amazing members here today who are going to talk about their niche, their focus. Now, one thing that I'm going to give you a heads up that niching down is important and it's very critical. But there's another thing which is called pivoting. And it's kind of an advanced move. It's not for beginners. Now, some of the members here are in that advanced realm. They are at a point where they're ready to pivot. So that may come up. We may discuss it. But if you're a beginner, just save it for later, right? To bookmark, like, pivoting when I'm ready, right? So, all right. So, cool. I'm excited, and I realize I'm missing my bow tie. I feel kind of naked, but that's okay. We'll go with it today. So let me line up our speakers, and we'll go from there. So just give me a second, guys. And all right. Oh, this is perfect. And we're gonna go. Let's see if I did it right. All right, yay! The intros are there. Whew. All right. Okay, cool. So let me just do a quick check-in on YouTube as well. Make sure things are going okay. Oh, there we go. All right, so YouTube, things are looking good. Some questions coming in. Awesome. All right, so guys, let's dive in. So why niche down? Boy, I don't even know where to start there. So I'll start with the general perspective, right? So I'll play the newbie, right? And you guys can help me out, right? So I'm the newbie. I'm starting out, and I was like, yeah, I have. I've done some work in Power BI at my company, and now I want to help people with Power BI. And I love doing it, and I just want to go out there and do Power BI stuff. What would you guys say back to me? Is that a good approach? Should I run with it? Go out there, wave my Power BI flag, or something different? Ian, let's start with you.
Yeah, a couple things. So first, I can't see the intros, so maybe as long as the folks on YouTube can, that's fine, because
Yep.
I know these folks. But that's going to be a tough road, right? Because Power BI is a piece, it's a tool, but it's not the domain that you're helping people with. And I've definitely had the experience of, you're talking to people about Power BI and they don't necessarily even know what it is. What they know about is the business problem that they have, right?
Wow.
And the business domain that they're in. And so if you're connecting, like Power BI is more like, I'm educating you about Power BI so that you can know something about it, versus you're talking about a problem, I'm connecting with you about that problem. So that's a tough one.
So folks, those are golden words, right? And here's the lesson, right? It's really simple, and that's what Ian said. People don't really care about Power BI, and they certainly don't care about you, right? They don't care about you. They don't care about what you're passionate about. They couldn't care less. Hey, it's simple. And, in a way, we're all like that. They only care about themselves. I don't think we should ever forget that. They care about themselves and their own problems. So one acronym that was taught to us was VIFM, and I love it. Gosh, I should write it in big bold letters, but VIFM is what's in it for me. That's all they're asking all the time. And if you can't answer that question, you can't really get through to them. Raul, what's and folks, so this, Raul, what's your take on this? Somebody is starting out and saying, I just want to help people with Power BI.
No, I agree with what Ian was saying. I know it's very easy for me to jump in and say that, but it's true in anything in life. If we're talking to everybody, we want to help everybody, we end up talking and helping no one in particular. Exactly how it is done, as you said, people they don't care so much that Power BI is columnar modeling and it has a great capacity because of X, Y, and Z. They want to see why, how can it help me to get my reports quickly and automatically without me having to do it all the time, get additional insight, find trends, etc. I mean, what they want to hear about, what, as you said, what's in it for me. Power BI, oh great, people don't know about it. So I agree with that.
That's great. And folks, I'm going to echo back some of what Raul said. So again, what he said was, if you try to be everything to everybody, well, guess what? You end up being nothing to nobody, right? I mean, it's just, right? It just doesn't resonate. And in some sense, because it's not believable, right? I mean, you go out there, I was like, yeah, I can do Power BI. I was like, yeah, who do you help? Oh, I can help everybody. I'm like, really? And that's, so it's, if you get specific, it's more relevant. They connect with you. They believe you. So for one, maybe I should have started with this. So I'll start with the confession that I was the person who was waving the Power BI flag. And frankly, for me, niching down has been quite a journey. And it's been kind of like the Power BI approach that I talk about, peeling the onion, that I've gone deeper and deeper. And it's like, no, I don't want to help everybody, just the business users, and just this. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But Nicholas, I want to hear your take on this. What do you feel about this approach? Targeting everybody versus niching down.
So targeting everybody is a little bit difficult, to be honest. When I started with Power Pivot, it was Power Pivot way back 5 years ago, maybe. I was working for a big customer service organization, and I was really excited about Power BI, Power Pivot. I started learning it further, and I was thinking that, okay, this is something I could do for everyone, basically. But the thing is that you need to focus on the business area or the subject where you are really at home and where you are an expert, where you have some expertise. So I'm providing Power BI consulting services for call centers and service centers organizations, because I can provide them insights and reporting that they are not even aware that exists. They are working in the old ways, or I don't know, for example, they are using Salesforce and doing the reporting in Salesforce, and they are not aware that they could have real-time reporting, which has much more depth, much more insights. And I cannot provide the same service to an insurance company because I don't know anything about insurance, right? So that's why I think it's important to niche down to your area of expertise and provide your real knowledge to those guys where you are an expert, basically. We are not only experts, or we don't want to be experts only in Power BI, but we need to have some other area as well. So we need to connect those two areas, and that's how you niching down, right?
Love it. Yeah. And of course, I always say that combine Power BI with a business aspect and put business first. And if you're helping with, right, I mean, as Nicholas said, kind of call center companies or things like that, in the service industry, you say, yep, I solve problems for them, right? So of course, so I don't want to, I want to hear Ian, Raul's, and Nicholas' story from them. So I'm going to use a different example of Greg Berg. And he has a background in aerospace manufacturing, and his area was project management. So he can go out there and say, I help project managers who are in the aerospace manufacturing industry streamline their work, their project management, everything, automate that with Power BI, right? So that kind of comes in the end. Again, Power BI is just a tool. It's a means to an end. So I would say don't lead with that, right? Do business plus Power BI. I'll mention a few other things here. One is that if you put your hat on Power BI, it's possible that in the current environment you can succeed. In fact, I would say it's quite likely that you will succeed, because just it's kind of a crazy time. Power BI has been hot, but it's getting hotter and it's getting bigger as kind of the Microsoft empire expands and all that, right? It's being pushed out pretty far and wide. It is a great tool, but Microsoft is clearly kind of really stepping on it. So Power BI is really hot right now. So it's possible that you may be able to succeed just by going, yeah, I help people with Power BI. It's possible. But of course, that's not gonna last too long, right? So, of course, if there's a demand, there's also supply, and the barrier to entry to somebody learning Power BI is so low. I mean, there's lots of knowledge out there that's been commoditized pretty much, right? I mean, YouTube, everything, YouTube, Google, and of course there are courses as well. So if you want to get the core concepts, right? I mean, there are courses out there. There's free information, and of course, Power BI Desktop itself is free. So the barrier to entry is so low. How would you ever compete with that? And if you go down this road, the challenge becomes that you're competing with people who are possibly smarter than you, right? I mean, who know more, have learned the latest stuff and all of that stuff. They're smarter than you. They're willing to work harder, longer hours for possibly less pay. And you can't. And of course, I always say that, hey, if you can't win the game, you got to change the game. And this is about changing the game. That's what you're able to do when you do niche down. That's how powerful it is. So let's talk about the fear of niching down. If somebody's saying, oh boy, but yeah, I mean, and I don't know, a lot of things would come like, well, yeah, I mean, would I be saying no to customers? And wouldn't that be too narrow? First of all, maybe kind of confession time. Has anybody kind of experienced that? Like when you've thought about like niching down, it's like, oh, I should target this, and then this voice goes in your head. It's like, no, right? And you back off and think, no, right? So that feeling. So I'm thinking about skiing, and when you're about to go downhill on the slope, oh man, the instinct is to pull back. But of course, what you need to do to stay balanced is opposite. It is counterintuitive. You need to lean in, and it is so super scary because every nerve in my body is asking me to pull back. You're falling. So boy, that fear can hold you back. So I got a big smile from Raul. So Raul, let's go to you. I don't know. I mean, if you experienced it, would love to hear kind of how it felt for you.
Well, actually, it's not that I have experienced it. I am experiencing it now.
Yeah. Great.
I'm in the middle of that. Now, let me see. It's not that I doubt the power of it, of niching down. I wholeheartedly understand it and I see it.
Yeah.
But I am very, nervous of target, like label, putting a label to it. I mean, I very briefly, I work. I'm an engineer. I've always worked in project management, but process control, process improvement, process repetition, reduction of waste. Lean, Six Sigma, waste reduction, material improvement, et cetera, et cetera. So that can be applied to a lot of things. And I do things like, wow, but there are so many things I can apply it to. Maybe I should stay this broad. Process improvement. Yeah. I have been going up. I have clients that are in that area that is kind of broad, and they all work on process improvement. I'm working on process improvement, material, segmentation of processes, segmentation of clients. And I am starting to go towards manufacturing.
Yeah.
And I can already start to see additional reporting and more specific that I wouldn't have done otherwise. OEE, overall equipment specifications, and et cetera, et cetera. So no, I am in the middle of it.
Great.
I know it's worth it. I will be able to deliver much better and much increased and better service and better value.
Yeah.
It is difficult. It is difficult. And your support and the support of the group
absolutely
has been amazing.
And likewise, and I've leaned on you guys as well. So thank you for getting the elephant, addressing the elephant in the room, sitting on a chest. So guys, it can feel scary. And again, we all experience it. And again, I talked about like, I'm in that journey too. It's been progressively kind of peeling the onion, kind of getting narrower and narrower. And every step I take, I'm like, whoa, this is... So, Raul, thanks for... So if you're feeling that, that's okay. But of course, what Raul talked about is that I would call it the knowing-doing gap. And it's a classic struggle, right? I mean, we often know kind of logically, but of course, as Simon Sinek points out, most of our decisions are not taken by the logical brain, right? It's kind of the elephant and the rider. I love that analogy. So we think with the rider we're in control of the elephant, but not really. I mean, if the elephant wants to go that way, it's going to go that way, right? So it's that kind of struggle, but it's valid there. But it is worth it, and yeah, I mean, we definitely feel lucky. I feel lucky as well that I have this community around me of this Pro Plus members, because we go back and forth on this quite a bit. So, Ian, what's your take on it? Or have you gone through this fear? I mean, sometimes like, no, you didn't experience it. Oh, you did.
No, I absolutely, all the time. And I think it's partly, a personality thing. Like I have this sort of restlessness to learn and do new things, right?
Yeah.
And so that part of me doesn't really want to go this narrow. Yeah. And then there's and how will other people deal with that? And I have actually a really funny short story about that. Is sometimes you think that, even somebody who might be a prospect now, well, if they know that this other thing is my niche, well, does that mean they don't want to work with me, right?
Yeah.
So doing a real BI project this week or in the last few weeks, and had gotten to a good spot with it, but having a little one-on-one with somebody, and letting them know, hey, this isn't really my main niche, this type of problem that we're working on right now. And he says, oh, what is? And I tell him, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I know X, Y, and Z CEOs of these companies. I'd love to introduce you. You know what I mean? And so it's funny that the gap between what you think will happen when you narrow down and what actually does when other people can recognize your niche too. So, so it's kind of interesting. Opposite of what you think sometimes.
Man, that is so awesome. So there's a lot in there. I'm gonna slow it down, play it back, just for my own sake, right? So again, it's that thought process, which is that, oh, if I box down, then I'll be saying no to people and they'll come at my door and walk away because they'll see the sign. First thing that I would say is that, so guys, you realize that that's a hypothetical problem for most of us, right? So I know when I was starting out my business, there was nobody lining out at my door, so yeah, I mean, yeah, the 1,000 fictitious hypothetical customers that could have come in are not going to go away. It's not a problem, right? So let go of that, right? I mean, you right? So let go of that. But yeah, what Ian said, that once you do define a niche, it really allows others to help you, others around you, right? If they know what you're about. And frankly, guys, I'll admit, I had such a struggle with this even while running this Pro Plus consulting program. So I've been running it for 2 years. We've had multiple batches. And it was such a frustrating feeling because this group is at the top of my mind almost all days. I'm like, hey, how can I help them? How can I help them? What can we do? And of course, if we get consulting leads, I'm trying to match them up with the right person and so forth. But for some of the members, I'm like, I don't know how to help you because I don't know what you're about. So stop there. And of course, that is true that people around you can help you if they know what you're about, right? And that's the story that Ian shared. But if you think about it, that even if you forget about other people helping you, can you really help yourself if you don't know what you're about? I mean, how scattered would be your approach? And again, contrast that with if you do get focused and you say, well, this is the niche I'm targeting. Those are the kind of people I'm going to go for. And again, this is scary. We're all admitting to that, right? All of us here. It's like, it's scary. And it's not scary in some like, oh, past, yeah, I conquered it. Or in some futures like, yeah, I'll deal with it later. No, guys, it's scary right now. Because in a way, you're always kind of defining the focus, defining the target, right? But it's valuable. Oh gosh, I had something else to share, but I forgot. Anyway, so Nicholas, let's I want to hear from you. Well, yeah, I mean, how has that internal struggle been for you? This resistance, just like, oh gosh, this is a bad idea.
Well, I mean, you have some fears, if you are niching down because, okay, how will I find my customers? And especially in my niche, so customer service, you would expect that most of these companies already are on the required level with reporting, because for them it's really the most essential, I think, to have really real-time and proper reporting implemented. And of course, I have fears that what will I do? Will I find my customers? But then some customer is approaching you, and you take a look on their system, and you see that they are still basically in the Stone Age, and you cannot believe, serious big customers are still copy pasting data from Excel to Excel, pivot tables here and there, and then putting it into PowerPoint. And by the time they are presenting the data to their management, it's already out of date, and anyways, it's not even correct. So yeah, I still have my fears, and of course I have some other projects as well. I mean, I have a really great customer now who is from totally different field, from the hotel industry, but it's a nice opportunity to learn something new and to a little bit expand your knowledge and expand your skills.
Yeah.
But I think it's, as you said, it's very important to have your niche, because that's what is making you different. That's differentiating you from the guys who are just providing general Power BI services.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. So, folks, let's kind of switch gears. So we've talked about kind of why niching down is important. We've talked about the fear of niching down. It's real, but it's definitely worth it to overcome it. Let's talk about the next step, which is how to niche down. So here I'll kind of kick it off. And how to niche down is generally pretty straightforward and simple. So again, I would use Greg Berg's example, aerospace manufacturing, project management, and that's what he used to do. It's like, yep, that was his role. He was in the trenches. He was dealing with these projects and tasks and all that stuff and deliverable and milestones. And it was kind of nightmarish till he started leveraging Power BI, made his life easier. And of course, right, I mean, if you can help one company, if you can help the company you're in and so forth, well, guess what? You can obviously help others. So he stepped out and started helping other companies, right? So whatever you have been doing, if you do that with Power BI, again, you become invincible. So it has got this double benefit. So if you think about it, if you combine your business skills with Power BI, now you're kind of the elite in that business area. So if you're a salesperson and you say, oh, I'm a salesperson, but I leverage all this Power BI awesomeness, guess what? It's going to put you head and shoulders above 99% of the salespeople out there, right? Who are just, kind of doing the things the old way, right? You're going to have data at your fingertips. You're going to have it be more actionable. And yeah, you're going to kind of outsmart them at every move, right? So that raises you above that. And the double win that I was talking about is that, again, that effect that I discussed earlier, where somebody who is, I learned Power BI. I spent the last year, I locked myself in a dark room, and all I did was study Power BI and DAX and M, and now I'm really smart in Power BI. Well, they can't touch you either, right? Because what are they going to do? I mean, how are they going to acquire the business knowledge? So whatever you were skilled at in business, you had your background, you combine that with Power BI. That's the easiest approach. It doesn't always work. And there's this next step. So I had mentioned niching down versus pivoting, and I'll use my example for that. So guys, when you're starting out on your journey, you gotta think narrow. In fact, the rule of thumb that my coach taught me was that when you come to a niche where you start feeling claustrophobic, you're like, whoa, no, that's way too small. That would be a stupid idea. Then you've nailed it. And right, and again, I hear that advice. I'm like, oh, God, really? But so that's the advice, and I'm still on that journey. But sometimes you gotta pivot. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna use Greg Berg's example. So Greg Berg, perfect analogy, right? I mean, he has this aerospace manufacturing project background, and that's a great niche to be in, and he has a lot of expertise in there, and he combined that with Power BI. But after a year or so of consulting, he stepped into this world of helping these specialty coffee companies. And he got so enamored by what they were doing, what they believed in, the impact he could create, that he pivoted, right? So pivot, what I want to point out is that don't do it lightly. It's a big thing, and pivoting should only happen, if ever, once every few years, right? So maybe in 2 years or 3 years. It's a big moment, and you got to decide that. And I have a feeling that one of the members here on this call is kind of in the process of that as well. So we'll see if we find out. So yeah, let's do some live examples. Boy, this is going to be exciting. So Nicholas, let's start with you. Tell us about your focus and niche. Who do you help? I know you mentioned a little bit in the intro, but let's dive in a little bit deeper.
All right. So my niche is basically customer service and technical support, call center organizations. So I spent most of my career, like 13, 14 years in this area. I spent my last 6 years as a director of technical support for a US-based international company. And this is where I gained my skills. And when I learned Power BI, I decided that this will be the niche, because here is something, this is the area where I can show up something more than just Power BI. This is where I can put that little extra to it, because if you have regular Power BI skills, you can write your DAX measures and you can write your basic measures and do your visualizations, but you don't have that experience from that field, and you don't know what is really important in that field. So right now, if I have a customer service manager, let's say, as a customer, we are colleagues. So he can share his experience with me. I can share my experience with him, and I can show him maybe some further insights that he's not aware. So he's learning, I'm learning, and this is how we help each other.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm really glad that we started off with a really classic example. So guys, don't overcomplicate it. Usually as simple as that, right? I mean, I worked in this industry, worked with these kind of people, and now I help them with Power BI. So Nicholas, for you, call center and kind of the service industry, are you targeting companies in a specific geographic location?
Not really. No, I'm from Europe. From Slovakia, border of Slovakia and Hungary, to be precise. And I would say the local market is not so big in this industry. So no, I don't have any target.
And what size of a company are we talking about? And I don't know if revenue is a good indicator, or the number of kind of people they have. Give me a sense of that.
That's again, it really depends on the situation. I had smaller customers and bigger customers as well. Like for example, a hospital with their call center. I was consulting with a really nice guy from a hospital.
So give me a sense of the size, like call center. I'm thinking about like the call center agents that they have. So from what number to what number?
Agents from, let's say, 5-6 people even. You can have very meaningful reports for a really small call center as well. But of course, I was creating dashboards for much bigger customers, like a few hundreds of agents.
Yeah, great. So folks, again, I mean, niching down is kind of a bit art plus science, and there's no right or wrong. And oddly, I generally kind of feel my instincts rather than a logical analysis. But you see where we are kind of with Nicholas, that we're kind of at this crossroads where he could specialize and focus on, you know what, I help companies who are based out of Europe, right? So, and again, I mean, right, so he could do that, and he could say that I help companies at a specific size, like that's my sweet spot, right? And again, it's going to feel like, oh, but I'm narrowing myself down. But guys, that's the whole idea. And we have talked all about it, and right, and right. So Nicholas, let me ask you, if you're working with them, who is the person that you're working with? What is their title? Is it like the director or the supervisor that you talked about, or who's the person who would be your client, who would hire you? Let's talk about that.
Yes, mostly it's the director or manager of that call center.
Perfect. And just curious. So let's say it is a Europe-based company, and let's say they have about 50 agents, let's say, right? And here we have a director of that who's handling that. What keeps them up at night? What are the challenges? What are they struggling with?
You mean from the reporting point of view?
Well, not really, just running the business. I mean, data is an integral part of it. But yeah, what are they struggling with?
Well, first of all, many of them are struggling with the unknown. So they don't know what is causing, for example, high abandon rate in their calls. So they are trying to catch, that information, but they don't see clearly the trends, and they don't see clearly all those connected things which affect, let's say, the abandon rate.
Yeah.
So
oh, this is great, awesome. So hey, good example, and that is better than you can imagine. So folks, I wanted to dip my toe a little bit into that, because of course once you have your focus and niche defined, then the next step, as I shared at the beginning, is the Pillarstone story. And Pillarstone story leans quite heavily on this profile and what are their pain points, and you kind of address that pain point in your story. So you can see that how Nicholas is kind of at this stage, and yeah, he's got a kind of a few avenues to go in. So Nicholas, thanks for that. Thanks for sharing. Raul, let's go to you. So I know you're in the kind of the process of something. You have an engineering background. So tell us what's going on right now. Who are you looking to serve with your Power BI expertise?
It's as you said, yeah, I have an engineering background with process construction, process control, materials, personnel, and lately I have gotten several clients that work everybody works in sales one way or another, but sales either of retail individual products in construction, or in piping or things like that, or companies that deliver a finished product in which they buy the things and put them together. For example, a drainage or irrigation for agricultural companies. Another one is, again, piping. So they get the material, they store it, they warehouse it, distribute it, that type of client. So, and manufacturing. So as I've told you, like, there's always that fear of niching down, but I've realized that niching down doesn't necessarily exclude other things. For example, very quickly, a very obvious one, sales. Everybody sells. So segmenting, grouping things, trying to see by region, by client, by whatever, by product, but okay, segmenting that kind of things, doing a basket analysis, to see what goes together. Now that can be used in manufacturing. Basket analysis, it can be used to detect when something is going to go wrong, or when one failure happens. From analyzing all the data, you can tell, well, usually this other machine will also fail. So something that was originally used in sales can be used in manufacturing. Within a manufacturing, analysis of the process, obviously processes are very important. Do an OEE, or overall equipment efficiency thing, is analyzing all the steps under production to see where are things failing. Okay, is it in the human part? Is it different?
Yeah, I'll just say that, I'm hearing kind of a lot of things, and you did admit that you're kind of at that point right now, and you have this rich background of what you've done, and you've helped a few different kind of companies. So let's talk about one thing. So again, we talked about the fear and so forth, and the fear is that it'll turn people away, and there may be other things that I really want to box myself in. So I'm not sure what's the rule around here, but one thing I know for sure is that niching down means that your messaging is consistent, right? Imagine that name tag that you wear when you walk into conferences. It says, Avi, I do this, I help this kind of people, something like that, right? So the messaging is always consistent. Now, does it mean that that's the only kind of thing you do? You don't do anything outside of it? Not really. I mean, you have a choice. And I think we all heard some mentions here. I think Ian was talking about it, where you can go out of your niche if you choose to. And of course, this is so powerful. I've heard stories um, where the person said that, oh no, I don't do that. This is my niche, but they were hired just for being honest, right? So you can step beyond that, whether you do or not, as long as it's a conscious choice that you control that. But your messaging outside should be consistent. So Raul, I mean, you have this rich background, and I'm hearing kind of sales process and warehouse and manufacturing. Now, if you were to pick one, which one would you pick? And I have a trick. If it's a struggle for you to pick, then I have something, a tool to help you.
Warehousing and distribution, companies that sell, that
Yeah,
that are heavily
great,
involved in warehousing distribution of their own product. Not,
great.
for example, not 3PL, not third
Third party
party
logistics. Yeah,
logistics,
yeah,
not 3PL.
mm-hmm,
The company themselves,
yeah,
a core or a big part of the business is their
yeah.
warehouse, because they sell
Love
a
it,
type of product.
love it.
They have, I don't know, maybe 500, 1,000 SKUs.
Great.
Um,
Oh
that,
boy, now you're getting specific. Now I'm loving it, right? So imagine every time I came across Raul, right? In person, virtually, online, it was the same thing, right? It was consistent, right? It was like, yep, that's who I help. I help warehouse companies who ship their own products. I help warehouse companies who ship their own products. So warehouse and distribution, and they have their own product. And you said something about the size. Say that again.
no, maybe, okay, size, the company might be, it can be anything between 10 and 100 employees.
Uh huh.
They tend to be the smaller ones. The difference in number tends to be if they have a bigger material, and it's more warehouse personnel. And I was saying somebody that sells, not 5 or 6 products, but 500, 1,000 SKUs.
Ah, okay, okay. Got it, got
So
it. There's some
so
complexity, a level of complexity
a
there.
complexity of more smaller, high volume, but smaller, not 5 products,
Yeah,
but 1,000 products. That's that type of
yeah,
company. And
yeah.
between, I don't know, 10, 100 employees.
Great. And who do you end up working with, or who would hire you? What would be their
Senior
role?
managers, COO, COO, CMO,
Yeah.
um, somebody that is in charge. Yes, COO a lot, because the operations, to try to improve the processes.
All right.
COOs, somebody like that. Yeah, at
Great,
a
great. So
senior
senior
level.
management, yeah, that's good, man. I mean, you see how specific you're kind of getting, right? And again, sometimes we build these multiple bridges, thinking that that's the safer option, right? And, we've all heard the saying, "Don't keep your eggs in the same basket," blah blah, all of that stuff. That's complete BS. So we say, "Oh, you know what? I'm gonna do a little bit of this," and we say, "Yeah, yeah, I'll do a little bit of this, a little bit of this," but we don't realize that that's the riskiest option of all. The safest option is to go all in. And again, it's crazy. It seems just absolutely crazy, guys. But frankly, what I'll say is that, I mean, proof is in the pudding, right? I mean, every time I've done it, in spite of all my fears, it stunned me with the results, right? So just I don't know, put a timeline on it, but give it 3 months, 6 months, something, right? But say, you know what, for the next 6 months, I'm gonna live, breathe, eat, talk just this. You're not gonna hear anything else from me, right? So Raul, I'm going to do the same thing that we did with Nicholas. Is that so? We have this a persona, and folks. So of course, in a program, I talk about it, and so these folks know. I often say that make it a real person. If you have a client which fits that profile, man, see if you can get their picture, print it out, put it up on a wall, and it's like, yeah, what would they want? Or just use a random image or something, like give them a name, right? I always pull up a name. Sometimes I'm writing an email, and I would pull a name for my most recent subscriber, and I'm saying I'm writing my letter to this person, right? So that's how you kind of think about that niche. So Raul, if you think about that one person, I don't know if a name pops up in your head, then share that name with us. But yeah, what keeps them up at night? What? Yeah.
It's okay, Bob, and if that's what popped into my head, he might
Okay.
be
Yeah. All right.
watching us because I am working with a senior manager, Bob.
Yeah.
Um, and it's very general, but what Nicholas said, not having information or not having it, no, but not having the ability to do root cause analysis, not being able to segment and see where things are not happening
Let's
correctly.
say, let's put it a different way. What would go wrong if they're not able to do this?
They could be overstocking. They could be understocking.
Okay,
Their
so
fulfillment.
cool. Let's so yeah, so a little bit more. So if they overstock or understock, what's the impact of that?
If the overstock, it's money just sitting there, just
Yeah,
product sitting in the warehouse for which they probably are incurring financial costs.
yeah,
If they're understocking, they either have to run to go get it, you know, or they have to pay somebody else to deliver
yeah,
it for them, or get it rushed over. So again, it has financial impact.
yeah.
Service client satisfaction. It might have to wait an extra day, or it doesn't get delivered on time.
Wow, that's powerful. Great. So we're not gonna go too deep in there, but to folks, you get the sense of that, right? I mean, when once you see kind of what they're struggling with, and I love kind of digging deeper a little bit, like why is that important? Why is that important? And often it ends up tying with money, which is good. Which is money is a great standard, and it kind of unifies all businesses in some way. And if you can get to that, that is meaningful. So you say, yep, I mean, if you overstock. So Ian has this wonderful saying, which I hope I can do justice to, which is only 50% of the marketing spend is effective. Now the question is, which 50%? That's what companies don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know which one is working. Some of it is working. So yeah. So think about a company kind of in warehousing is like, well, last year, how much money did we leave on the table, or we incurred extra costs or something because 70% of the time we were overstocked in most of our main product categories. Boy, I mean, that can hurt, right? I mean, how much money is in a year? So
Absolutely. So the cost
yeah.
segmentation, I'll throw this one last one in. Cost segmentation. Okay, what are my direct costs? What are my indirect costs? What are
Mm-hmm.
my fixed costs? What are my variable costs? Out of those, which have the biggest impact? Which ones have the biggest price variation depending on what we buy? So you can use a box and whisker, like the distribution of the price of one individual product. So
Yeah.
to get to the list of products, instead of looking at 1,000, you can do a grouping and identify which ones have the biggest impact. Of those, which ones have the biggest variations? That is the low
Great.
hanging fruit to
Yeah.
address and try to buy in bulk or whatever. So
Yeah.
um,
Great. Great. Love it. Love it. Thanks a lot for sharing all of that. So folks, yeah, I mean, if you feel like you're at a crossroads and if you feel like this fear is stopping you from moving on, use this trick. I mean, I've used this in the past and it has certainly worked for me, is that just give yourself a timeline. You're going to say, you know what, this is scary and I don't know which is the right option. That's another gotcha where I often get stuck in. It's like, oh God, yeah, I want to choose, but there are these three choices. Which one do I choose? Which one do I pick? And I stay stuck there forever. But of course, when you're stuck, you're not making progress. You're not moving in any direction. And the first time my coach said this to me, and he said, Avi, it's better to be moving 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction than to be going 1 mile an hour in the right direction. I was like, that makes no sense. But if you think about it, it does. It makes the perfect sense. You can't change the direction of a parked car. And that's what we're doing, right? A lot of times we're in the parked car and like, right or left. I mean, it doesn't matter. You're stuck. You're not moving, right? So it's harder. Think about it, just in the laws of the physics, right? I mean, it's harder to go from 1 mile an hour or 0 miles per hour to 1 mile per hour to 100 miles an hour. That's hard. Acceleration is hard, right? But if you're going at 100 miles an hour, changing directions isn't that hard, right? So yeah, right. So give yourself a timeline. So if you feel really stuck by a fear or by this choice, like, oh God, I got these three choices, which is the right choice, and that's the paradox that we get stuck in. because the choice you make is the right choice, right? That's the paradox there. But so choose one and give yourself a timeline. Say, you know what, 3 months, 6 months, whatever seems reasonable. I'm just gonna go with this choice. Gonna go all in and let the results speak for themselves. All right, so Ian, let's hear from you. Who do you serve with your Power BI skills?
So interestingly, I think that, like Raul, that 500 to 800 to 1,000 or more items is one of those key things, and people lose track of it. And for me, the thing that people are doing is projects, and more specifically, usually construction or consulting type projects, right? So there are these things where they've got people out running around all over the place in trucks, for example, collecting data on handhelds. Everything is flowing around out there, right? And you lose track of where it is. You can't walk onto a factory floor and see a pile of inventory or work in process. The only way you can really see that aggregated up, especially if it's taking place over lots of cities or even states, is to see it visually or see it in data. Mm-hmm. And so those are the types of companies. If they've got, more than 500 projects a year that they're doing, and those are meaningful dollar projects, right, where lots of stuff is flowing around in them, that's a key. The second piece I would say that is really important is that they have a really aggressive growth goal, like, for a construction or a service company growing 30, 40% a year, right? Or more. And that almost creates the problem that they need to solve. That's a hard problem to solve because you need more people all the time. You need more coordination. There's all those things. And so that strive for growth is the key. And it's also the key for me personally, because I have been through business cycles where you are growing and it's great. I've been through business cycles where it's maturing and where you're in a cost cutting mode. And I really resonate with that growth mode. And so that's a key. So who is it in the organization? A person needs to basically have direct access to the CEO or be the CEO. They need to be cross company. They need to, or at least a division, right? Because sometimes this is within a division within a larger company. Can't be, within a specific, functional line just down in accounting, for example. Not that those people don't need Power BI help. It's just that I'm not the right person for that. Yeah. Right? So their main goal, or the thing that keeps them up at night, is unblocking the bottlenecks. They're going to stop them from reaching their growth goals. Because if you try to grow really fast in a business like what I'm describing, it will absolutely eat cash, right? And so you'll have to borrow, you'll have to do all kinds of things. That gets bigger and bigger. You have to unblock those bottlenecks so that you can do more with less, so that you don't end up with piles and piles of work in process out there, sucking up cash, in essence.
That's great.
That's the gist.
Wow. So, guys, I'm a bit blown away. But to be fair, Ian had an advantage, right? I mean, he saw kind of the questions I was asking.
Oh, I totally did.
So didn't need any prompting from me.
Little cheat sheet.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. He was probably scribbling down notes. But that's phenomenal. I'm going to call out two things that I loved. So one, that he talked about the company that wants to grow kind of almost explosively, right? I mean, 30, 40% growth. And the line that came to me was, what got you here won't get you there. And it applies at a personal level as well as a company, right? So we all kind of where we are. And I remember when I was sitting in Microsoft and, seemingly an okay career, maybe even above average, maybe, if I was being nice to myself, right? But, I felt kind of stuck. And if I kept doing what I was doing, you keep getting what you've always been getting, right? So what got you here won't get you there. You got to do something different to get something different. And again, that applies at a personal level, but definitely at a company level. And that's what Ian's talking about. Another line that I loved was that Ian said, oh, yeah, cool. Not that those people don't need my help or Power BI help, but I'm not the right person for them. And guys, I'm telling you, the first time you say no to something, man, you have arrived, right? I mean, and it feels so powerful because yeah, you're being true to yourself. And the way I like to think about it is that I'm not really saying no to those things. I'm saying yes to the things that I really want, right? So yeah, and you can't have both. You can't be saying yes to everybody, and yeah. So that's really good. So Ian, tell us a little bit more how you have arrived at this point. Like, how does it connect with your background? I mean, right now, obviously, it seems kind of sounds all kind of buttoned down, but how has been the journey to get to this point?
Yeah. And it's for sure not all buttoned down, right? I still have all the same struggles that we're talking about. But if I think back to what I was doing before in my career, I was mainly a product manager, right? And the types of engagements that my product line did were, 500 plus consulting engagements a year backed by software that helped us do a lot of the stuff. And a lot of the software was about project tracking and plus some other, special sauce things. And in fact, if I kind of layer on to that, I had control of, or at least direction of significant budget, like millions of budget to build software to do the work that we were trying to do. And what I found was that custom building software still couldn't solve all your problems. There were always new things coming up in projects. Yeah. Clients wanted things that were not going to fit in your software. And the nature of projects is more fluid, right? And so analytics, something Power BI like, a whole lot of Excel, whatever it is, you need something that's in that middle space of not paper, maybe not even just plain old Excel, and not some structured software that you spend millions on and it still doesn't do what you need it to do tomorrow, right?
Love it.
So I saw a lot of those problems firsthand in running those kinds of organizations and having responsibility for trying to grow them, right? I've also, of course, taken on work that was not in my my zone of specialty, right? Mm-hmm. I think I mentioned I did a project early on with where somebody was doing what was it? It was a payroll process, mm-hmm. and they were processing commissions, and it seemed like a good growth company. There were a lot of things about it, like access to CEO, but this project was focused on payroll stuff, weekly to the penny, weekly to the penny. I'm not a weekly to the penny guy, right? Wow. I know that now through that experience. And so it's much easier for me to go, that doesn't look like me. Yeah. Or, I do things where we try to, grow top line and whatnot. So there have been some painful lessons along the way, and that wasn't all bad. I learned a ton. I like the people, but it definitely did not help me with the domain experience and growth toward what I was really trying to do next. So yeah. So boy, time flies when you're having fun, having a great conversation. So we are at the top of the hour. I definitely want to thank all of our guests. I enjoyed our conversation today. One thing that I missed doing, guys, was to put their links to their profiles in the video. I'm going to do that right after I hang up on this call. So make sure to check out the video description, reach out to them, connect with them. Certainly, if there's a connection, if you're in the same domain, now which kind of companies they help with. So if you fit that profile, hopefully that resonated with you. And because that's what it's about, right? I mean, there's a lot of noise out there, but sometimes when we can get specific, and frankly specific to the point where it almost feels like we're talking to one person. And I did say I use that technique. I mean, I create that persona, give them a name, use a photo, something, and I say I'm talking to this person. And of course, well, you can put that on LinkedIn and maybe hundreds of people would see. But then if that one person is out there and they read that stuff, they're going to go, oh my God, he's talking to me. And you probably, something like that has happened to you, maybe from even one of my videos, or maybe something in this discussion, like, oh my God, they're talking about me. And that's the connection you want to make. And that's the power of focus and niche. So all right, folks, so we'll sign off on YouTube. We will see you next week on the next episode of Talk Power BI.